a lot of the agents out there are trying to convince people to get your money out of your IRAs and 401ks and put it all here and do all this stuff.
Yeah,
and like super dangerous, super dangerous. So life insurance, I believe, as a retirement income vehicle can be an amazing, amazing thing if you fund it properly and if it's part of a bigger plan.
Well, I am so excited to be in the Life 180 studio today interviewing my great friend, Chris Kirkpatrick.
What's up,
Chris,
buddy?
thanks for doing this with me, man. This
Totally,
is so
man.
cool. So I reached out to Chris because Chris has made such an impact in my life, in my career, and really ultimately in turn for my clients because of his influence and what he's done to help me really start to create some great things in my practice, which I'm really excited and grateful for.
Awesome,
so
man.
reached out to Chris because he's somebody who I really have a tremendous amount of respect for, and I said it'd be just an honor to have you on and get your perspective on the business, the industry, what you're doing. And
That's awesome.
So I'm grateful.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I'm excited to be here.
I guess I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah,
But it's for your channel.
Yeah,
so like,
you're
hey,
hosting
like,
me,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's for us.
That's good.
So I want to just dive in because, Chris, you have become a very important figure in our industry.
So weird to hear, but cool.
You have, man. I mean, you've done a lot of cool things, and you really,
Yeah.
I know who you are. I've been very blessed to get to know you over the past few years, and I know where your heart is, and I know you're really on a mission. So just tell me, because we get to see Chris live, I get to see you behind the scenes, we get to have great conversations. Who is Chris Kirkpatrick?
I think the best way to do it is I've always been the guy that sticks up for the little guy, I guess.
Nice.
You know, if you go back to high school, I was a really successful athlete, but I was always the guy that, high school's really cliquey, right? And it's really whatever. I was always the guy that, even though I was like able to hang out with the cool kids because I was the athlete that everybody kind of like looked up to, and I would also be the guy that like stepped aside in the lunchroom when somebody was picking on, somebody, and it's just like in my DNA, I guess. I can't help it. And it's not even like I made a conscious decision to do those things. It was just like I'd see and react, and it was just, and that's kind of how I am. I'm very a ready, fire, aim mentality. I let my passion lead me.
That's awesome.
I just believe in truth is truth.
Yeah.
A lot of opinions. I have plenty of opinions that when I have an opinion and whatever, I feel like I'm pretty self-aware, and I'm able to acknowledge like, all right, here's what I think is my opinion, and here's kind of like what I feel is the truth. And when I believe there's a truth in kind of how in life in general, I think we need to live in full integrity in those truths. Yeah. And I live for my family. I live for the fact that like I don't know how to describe it. I've always felt like I was put on this earth to do something significant. I don't know how to describe it. I've spent hundreds of hours probably talking to my wife about this, where it's like the evolution as things have gone here have been really, really interesting. But I love, as this is all evolved, I love the fact that we're doing significant stuff. And it's weird. We just hit 25,000 followers on YouTube, which is cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, that's a cool thing. But I think the coolest part about it is not just the fact that we're getting followers, but the fact that we're like truly impacting lives. And I just want to live in my truth, like what I know my truth is. And I just want to share my experiences with people, because I spend a lot of time being pretty polarizing in my perspectives. The reason I do so is because wishy-washy middle of the road stuff doesn't move people to take action. That's kind of my perspective. I think Grant Cardone said it at one point in time, and it really resonated with me, because there was a period where I was trying not to be so polarizing. And I was trying to be like, all right, well, I have this belief, I have my beliefs, and I want to share and impact the industry, and I want to educate people, because I'm hardcore on education and the fact that we have responsibilities as agents in this business to really educate and serve people at a bigger level. And I don't think that's focused on enough. So that's like one of the things that I dedicate the channel to, is to just educating people. Yeah. But then I heard Grant Cardone say is like me or hate me, you can't ignore me. And it's just like, I was like, ooh, I think I need to get behind that, And so that's where like you'll notice that around 2020, I have a responsibility. Like I can't worry about people hating me. I can't worry about any of that. I know what I know. I know what my truth is. And I know that I don't want to deal, like I think a lot of people think I like to fight with people, because I fight a lot with people online. But I don't like it at all. I just do it because I feel like I have a responsibility to do it, and nobody else out there that knows what I know is willing to step up to the plate and kind of fight that fight. And so I've just kind of like taken the flag, and I'm running like crazy with it, hoping I don't crash and burn along the way, I guess,
That's awesome. So I can definitely attest to that. What you said in the beginning about, being maybe like one of the guys who would put your arm around somebody, like you've definitely done that for me and brought me in and lifted me up. And I think we talked about that, which is really special. So there really is nobody like you who's doing what you're doing right now, which is why I wanted to spend time with you other than us just being friends. And so, for people who might not know what this fight is you're talking about, right? Because on my channel, we talk a lot about retirement income, right? There's a very specific fight that you're in every day on the front lines. Tell me about that. And I mean, you touched on it already, but what is the fight and why are you so against IUL?
So here's the thing. I got into the business. So my story real quick, I was in my 20s, I was a top 100 online poker player.
I learned that this morning.
The government shut down online poker overnight. I lost multiple six figures that were in my poker playing accounts that the government locked up. And I went from my whole life savings basically at that point in time was in those accounts, and I lost everything. So at 30 years old, I had to start from scratch with nothing. And at that point in time, I had been playing poker online for a living, doing really, really well. And when you get used to that kind of money that easy at that, it's hard to have a real respect for money. So one of my passion points about teaching people about money right now is because of the fact that if I had known then what I know now, my life would be like, I'd live on an island already somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, because I made a lot of money and I blew a lot of money and I was like super irresponsible and I just had no understanding about it. Because I grew up with a family with a lot of love, but no understanding about money. And so I was really good on the macro level, understanding like the political environment, economics and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about personal finance. And so when online poker got shut down, I got into the life insurance space. And I went in initially to go with my father-in-law to do the business as a wirehouse guy, like working for Wells Fargo advisors. I was gonna go work with Wells Fargo advisors. Can you imagine me working there? And so
did they allow you to make YouTube videos?
No, not at all. Exactly. So I went in, but the funny part was, if you remember, this time was about just in end of 2009-ish, right? And so I go into the office and I meet with his manager, Ray, and Ray sits down and he interviews me and he's like, Chris, here's the deal. Your father-in-law wants you to come in as his succession plan, but I don't know if you've looked around, but the economy's not doing great. Right? We just came through this massive recession. You haven't had a job in 7 years. If I hire you, they're going to fire me, you know? And I was like, well, what do I do? He's like, well, go get a job at an insurance company. They'll hire anybody.
That's what he said?
That's what he said. And that is how I got into the life insurance business. Okay. So here's the crazy part.
God.
So this is why it's important to understand this backstory to understand my passion in this fight that I have.
Yeah.
And I got a job at one of the top IUL companies in the country, an insurance company. And so I get a job there. And in the first 6 months, I bought the story about what Index Universal Life is sold as, like all these TikTokers and Instagrammers are selling it as right now with the upside potential, downside protection, tax-free income in retirement, all that stuff. Back then, it was even worse than it is today, okay? It wasn't as bad because there wasn't as much social media, but as far as tactically what agents were doing at the ground level was worse because of the positive arbitrage and all the things they were doing. But I bought that hook, line, sinker, so much so that I believed in it so much that I went to my father-in-law. And I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to be your succession plan. I don't believe in what you do. You don't understand this stuff. I found the golden goose here. Right? I believe in this IUL stuff so much. And if I joined him, I had a guaranteed multiple six-figure job locked up. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I walked away from it because that's the way I am. If I believe in it, I'm going to, money doesn't matter. And so I believed in it so much, I stepped away from that and I was like, you're going to have to find another plan. I'm going this direction. And so I did it. And I went through the ranks. I became the director of business development for the company. It went really well. My job became training other agents around the country and going around recruiting agents and training them and all that stuff. And my job, and I remember when it first hit me that I was like, oh, and I'm not going to get a whole story about how I discovered because it's a long story. But when I first started realizing oh, this isn't what I think it is. You know me. I can't live like that.
Yeah.
So very quickly, within a couple month period, transitioned and got to the point where rather than taking another promotion with the company, I quit. When I quit, the hardest part was I had to go to my father-in-law and be like, hey, by the way, I've got my second kid just was born.
Yeah.
I had a 4-year-old and a newborn at home, a wife that was out of work, and I had to walk away from really good money that was guaranteed because I didn't believe in it anymore. And I had to start completely over, once again, for the second time, basically, in 4 years.
With little kids at home.
Jeez. And so anybody that questions why I fight this fight, this is, this is real to me. And then the company sued me for non-compete and cost me 6 figures in legal bills over 2 years to fight them. And
That's scary, fighting an insurance company coming after you.
Totally.
Like,
and I'm just like little old guy. By the way, my attorney in the middle of the whole thing, my attorney died, had a heart attack on an airplane flight on the way to his son's wedding. Like, so we're 7-8 months into the lawsuit, and my attorney died. Like it's like, and he was a family friend too. So to make it all,
I'm not laughing that he died.
No. But
oh
like,
my gosh,
it was.
How did you?
It's trauma, man.
Yeah,
it's trauma.
Yeah.
Like it was horrible, and so.
Gosh.
Not only that, when I decided to make the move away from IUL, I had to go to my father-in-law and be like, oh, by the way, remember the reason I didn't join you? Because I believed in this thing so much? I was wrong. like think about that. Like, that to your father-in-law. That's a hard conversation. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to him and I had that conversation, and he's like, so does that mean you're coming with me? I'm like, oh, no. I still don't believe in that. But let me tell you what I found. And he just kind of rolls his eyes and like, whatever. And that's where I went. And I realized, like, everything I thought I was trying to do for clients was put them into like a whole life chassis, because when we think about it, you know, I'm a big believer that life insurance should never be viewed as an investment, but it can be a great asset and foundational asset in your life to help you live your best life possible for so many reasons. And you know, if we can get into as much or little as you want to, but like that's my stance. There's a reason I'm writing my book, IUL Exposed, the truth about the most misrepresented financial product in history, is because of the fact that it's just that. Like, IUL, there's nothing wrong with IUL as a product. Like, IUL solves different problems for different people at different stages. We just did a video on my channel talking about ways that it works, and you do things that it works. And like, I respect that immensely.
Yeah, thank you.
There are the challenges for every one whole life agent doing it right. There's 20 or 30 IUL agents doing it wrong. And so the reason I'm fighting my fight is because I believe out of those 30 agents that are doing it wrong, that are hurting people and families in America, I believe they're just where I was when I was getting into the business. That, you know, they're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
People don't realize I was that passionate about it, right? I walked away from my father-in-law's investment practice.
Right, you must have been if you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get it. Like, so the reason I'm doing it is because I don't think they're bad people. Most of them. Some of them are pretty nefarious and they know what they're doing. But 95% of them, I think they just don't know what they don't know. And they're exactly where I was in my first year in the business. And they're just on fire, you know? And they're just ignorance on fire, which I was. I get it. And so the reason I create the content that I have is to not fight IUL. I feel like a lot of people feel like I just want to bash it and fight it and whatever. No, my passion is to expose the truth to these people so they can get to more clarity and help people and become the best version of themselves and the best agent possible.
That's awesome.
Faster than my process, with less pain than my process. And like, that's why I do what I do. And that's ultimately, you know, why we launched our IMO and did what we did. It wasn't because I was looking to go start an IMO. It was because like it just kind of developed because based out of need and demand, you know, of people asking for it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, our relationship, you know, I mean, it's important. And I think it is, it's so well said, man. I love that you took time to clarify that. 'Cause I think when you see if you see you in a short, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's so polarizing, wants to battle. But if you know who you are and your story and your mission, you know, it makes so much sense why you're doing what you're doing. I think you're doing a great thing. So a lot of people get a lot of information from YouTube and TikTok. And so when you sit down with somebody who's going, hey, I'm looking at this IUL, give me 3 questions that you would provide that person to get clarity on if they are really trying to get the right thing for them or not. Like, how would they discern?
So from an agent perspective?
No, like let's say for example, a client comes to you and goes, hey Chris, I'm looking at this IUL.
Okay.
What were 3 questions you would give them to go to their agent and say, well, you know, how do I know if this is right for me?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm looking at it from the perspective of like, what problems are you trying to solve with this product? Like, why do you even want? What is the reason you're even contemplating putting money into a life insurance chassis product, right? I'm a huge believer you have to align your money with your values and your beliefs, period. And I think that's one of the reasons that so many people struggle with money in this country is they don't even have clarity about what their own values and beliefs are, right? And so if you don't have clarity around that, it's really hard to like back your way into aligning your money with those things, right? Like, and it's that old statement, like if you're not living intentionally, you know, to create the life that you want to live, you're living somebody else's plan. You know, you're creating somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality we live in. So what I find is if you really back away from the numbers and the illustrations, I think it's important to ask the questions about like why are you even doing this in the first place? Because I truly believe in utilizing cash value life insurance. Obviously, in all the videos I do, that's pretty obvious. Like, and I think it's the number one foundational asset every single person should have at some point in time in their life. But you got to be really intentional about why you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and when you do that, can you have with your agent a clear communication with that? And are they really able to help guide you through that process and have a real good, deep, articulate conversation around that? Because it's not just look at the illustration and look at all the cash and look at all that stuff. If that's what somebody's selling you and just trying to convince you out of all the like understanding it all, like all that stuff, I think that's it. So that's the first question is, and I know it's a long answer to that, but the first question is like, why are you doing this? Like that's what I would ask you if you said, hey, Chris, I'm thinking about doing this. The second thing I'd be like is like, what are your long-term goals? Like, you know, I mean, and I know that kind of like overlaps a little bit because that might be some of why you're doing it, but
sure,
you know, what else do you have going on in your financial life? The challenge with a lot of IULs and a lot of the people that are selling IULs is it's sold as a tax-free income alternative or tax-free income retirement. And so a lot of the agents out there are trying to convince people to get your money out of your IRAs and 401ks and put it all here and do all this stuff.
Yeah,
and like super dangerous. So life insurance, I believe, as a retirement income vehicle can be an amazing, amazing thing if you fund it properly and if it's part of a bigger plan and it fills a need as like a volatility buffer. We're not going to get all the technicals in this video. You can look them up. I'm sure he's got videos on it. But like, you know, like volatility buffer is great for the living benefits. You know, I do a thing called cash flow hacking where, you know, if you want to during accumulation, if you want to borrow and leverage it for real estate investing, I just fundamentally believe that you should never take risk inside of a life insurance contract because life insurance companies are not great at taking risks and getting great returns. They're great at providing you the best return possible with the least amount of risk possible. And I got news for you, that return is not sexy, you know? And so, you know, that's it. So I would say like long-term, like what does the rest of your plan look like? And how does this plan fit into the rest of your life, you know? And B, I would say like, do you fully understand what you're getting involved in? Like, have you read the entire contract? Have you like really, are you fully clear about what you're putting your money into? Because I don't think anybody should invest or put money into anything that they don't understand. And I guess I'll add a fourth is like,
I know you could add 10.
And this is the biggest one. And this is when I started with, is your money in alignment with your values and beliefs, right?
Right.
Is everything you're doing in your financial strategy helping you progress and grow and become who you need to be to live the life that you want to live?
Wow.
Right?
That's awesome.
And that's why I love whole life insurance because I believe it does that. I believe the process of that does that. I believe it's always a value creation product. And that's why we talk about it like that way, but it's not an easy sell, right? To get people to understand that it takes time to have people grow and educate themselves and take the time to understand it. And our job as agents is to be there to guide people through that process.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with IUL is it's a zero-sum game still. Like you're still talking about like just buy, save, accumulate, distribute, whatever, without understanding all the moving parts. It's still a zero. It's a win-lose equation.
Right.
And at the end of the day, whole life it can always be set up to be a value creation situation 100% of the time.
That's amazing. Totally aligns with my mission of helping people realize their purpose in retirement. You got to get clarity on what you want to have happen so that you can maximize that. And then these are just tools to put in place for that. So that makes so much sense. What are the top 3 gotchas of IULs that people are unaware of typically when they're looking at an illustration and they're trying to evaluate it? What are the 3 things that are like behind the scenes that they really need to be aware of when you say, have you read the whole contract? Even if a consumer reads the whole contract, they're not going to understand probably a lot of it. So what are the 3 like big, like, hey, you really got to make sure you know what's going on here?
First and foremost, if somebody's selling you the contract based on tax-free income retirement, right? You have to have the illustration run with income distributions on it because when you do it, it'll add extra pages of disclaimers on the illustration. It's crazy to think about. Like
wow.
Yep.
So you're telling me if somebody is, and you see these all the time where somebody runs an illustration, there's loans coming out for income. You're saying that that'll add extra disclosures to the consumers?
Because they have to now print pages of disclosures about the risks that are involved when those.
What are those risks? How do people know what those are?
I'll explain it to you. So when you add income, there injects risk because the illustration always illustrates positive arbitrage, 50 basis points of positive arbitrage, meaning you could borrow at 5%, but it's going to credit you 5.5% in the policy. So on paper, that looks really sexy.
Right. So break that down for somebody who's watching who doesn't understand what you're saying. They're charging 5, they're illustrating 5.5, 50 basis points
more. So your policy is earning more than you're paying in interest.
Okay, thank you.
So therefore, it goes into perpetuity and it looks so nice. It looks like this is why these things sell so well, because people don't understand it. They get caught.
This is why you thought you found the golden goose.
Yes, exactly. And so when you run it for illustration, then go back and read, like, it will add literally disclosures talking about how even though it's showing this 50 basis points of positive arbitrage, those returns are not guaranteed. In fact, they're injecting more risk into it, and they, all this stuff. But if you don't illustrate the income, they never talk about the fact that when you take income out of it, you're injecting more risk into the policy.
So
Crazy.
So what you're saying is if they don't even put it on the illustration, that the conversation doesn't come up.
And they can talk to you and be like, hey, when you hit retirement, see this $800,000 you have? You can start taking income at retirement. But then they won't run the income for you because they don't want you to look at all the fine print that comes along with running the income for you. It happens all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest one, because when you understand that it changes the dynamic of everything. And then the other thing is the IUL is sold on upside potential and downside protection, right? Like you can earn up to a 10% cap, and they say, well, if the market does 20%, you're only going to earn 10%, right? But on the flip side, if the market does 20% negative, your floor is zero. You can't lose. So the whole idea is, and this is where I talk semantics, and I get into battles about this every day because it is what it is. And I'll show on a board just to give math. It'll take 10 seconds. You can't lose due to market risk, but you can lose in the policy because of market risk.
Ooh, that's a key distinction.
So think about this. If you're 65, and let's say you have $1 million in cash value, okay, in net cash value, and let's say your death benefit is like $2,500,000. Let's say though that income, I'll just write income, you can start at 66, pulling $100K out per year. It wouldn't be necessarily this, but I'm going to keep numbers round just for simplicity.
Sure.
When you take this income, what is it? It's a loan. The idea is you're going to pay 5% on this loan, all the while this net cash value is going to be earning 5.5% the whole time, right? So that positive arbitrage looks really good because you'll earn 105 here, but you'll earn 105.5, more over there. So no big deal. Yeah. But the reality is 25 to 30% of the time, the performance, and this is just historical look back. This is not my opinion. This is just history.
Right.
25 to 30% of the time, this policy is going to perform worse than your cost of money. So let's just say 30% of the time, this policy is going to perform worse, which is going to inject more cost, more risk, more everything that will never be showed on your illustration. So when I say you can't lose due to market risk because the floor is there and all that stuff, that story is what it is. If I take $100K and 6 years later, I've taken $600,000 of income, but that's probably like $800,000 that I owe in loans now ish, maybe $750, but let's just whatever.
Yeah.
So now I owe this $800K. What's happening is the net cash value has gone down to probably like $400K. But the bottom line is this will go into perpetuity on the illustration for the $100,000 of income because of this positive arbitrage. It's math games, right? When they say you can't lose due to market risk, well, yeah, you're not losing due to market risk because of that 0% floor. But now, as soon as we take a lot of income out of these policies, this $800,000 is a liability in our policy. It's a loan. And so now we only have 400 cash value. If you really leaned on this for 100K of income, right? You're taking that 100K out, plus now you have 5%, which is $40,000. So now I got 140K total that this is getting no credits this year, which is the credits created by this 50 basis points of positive arbitrage. So this 140K gets lopped right off this, and now all of a sudden I have 260K instead.
Whoa.
So I just lost effectively 40%, and that's only on a 0% year. I lost 40% of my cash value left, and if that happens once when you're 70 years old, this policy is done. It will never recover.
Terrifying.
And so this is what all these people that are buying this tax-free income retirement, like it works until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you're toast. And the problem with this, in the scenario that I use, if you're 71 here, if this policy has another year that's bad at 72, this will lapse. And you're gonna have to come out of pocket for probably $100,000, $50,000 just to keep it from lapsing. And if it lapses before you're 75, when the overloan protection rider kicks in, you're gonna get hit with a taxable event.
Oh my gosh.
So when people wonder why I'm so passionate about educating people how this works and the danger in it, that's why.
That's the danger. That people be in their 70s, it's too late. They think they have a retirement income. And it could very well be a disaster.
And that's
like a catastrophe.
And that's why when people come to me and they're like, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, no, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're in your 40s and even 50s, but the problem is by the time you realize it is a big deal, it's going to be too late. And we're going to have,
wow.
There's going to be a reckoning in this industry.
Chills,
there's
dude,
going to be a reckoning in this industry.
So I've always wanted to ask this, and I actually just thought of this, and you're probably the perfect person to ask. Why don't IUL illustrations run like more of a Monte Carlo? Why are they like fixed rate?
Because nobody would ever sell them. If you ever did that, people would buy whole life every time. Because like
that's why they don't run them that way. I've always wondered that. Like, why not just do it like they do with annuities, where you plug in different numbers?
Because you can't run all the different variables. Like the problem with IULs, they're a very complex product being sold as a very simple solution.
Whoa, that's well said. Yeah,
that's their problem. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, I just showed you one analogy, like one example of things that they can't show on an illustration. You can't show all the different iterations and potentials of what will happen. Yeah. The only thing I guarantee you on an illustration for an IUL is that it will never perform as it's sold.
You have a challenge.
Yeah.
Has anybody won that challenge?
No, nobody's won the challenge. And nobody will.
Tell people what the challenge is.
I created the thing called the IUL challenge. It's basically saying if the product is sold on upside potential, downside protection, we just came through the biggest bull run of all time. Yeah. And so I want to talk to somebody that has a policy that's been around for 10 years during the greatest bull run of all time. I want to see the original illustration that was sold on conservative, quote unquote, assumptions. And I want the enforced illustration. I don't even need it to have, so the illustration currently has outperformed the original based on the projections of the fact that the market has outperformed expectations, like in the greatest bull run of all time. So you would think every policy sold in an IUL, if it had upside potential, would have captured the bull run and outperformed the conservative illustrations, but not one person's been able to do it.
How long have you been running this challenge?
Almost a year and a half now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
I'm offering $2,000 to anybody that can just show me one time that it worked.
Holy cow. Well,
show me 2 pieces of paper and I'll give you $2,000. Like, nobody can do it.
Okay, so tell me what the vision is for the future. Tell people what Life 180 stands for and what your vision of the next, let's say, 10 years is.
Yeah, so Life 180 has kind of 2 acronyms that I like to use. It's living intentionally for excellence, because I just believe that's how I live my life. I'm obsessed with like personal development, all these books on my bookshelf and stuff. I've read every single one of them, and I think we need to be intentional about the life that we want to live, and we need to reverse engineer, align everything that we're doing in life with our values and beliefs and the life that we want to live, and we got to go after that intentionally. The other one is leading into financial excellence and helping people really simplify financial confusion, because there's so much information out there that is bad, quite frankly, and that is not in your best interest. And I just my beliefs and my values and whatever, I just don't believe that the financial system and the institution of the personal finance world, we'll call it, is designed for you watching this video to be successful. I believe it's all about control. I'm obsessed with control, and I want to help people simplify confusion and take control of the results in their own financial life, and realize that I write about it in my book, the 4 F's. I actually called it 5 F's of life now, because we're all after freedom, right? That's what retirement is, right? Financial independence. We're after financial freedom, right? And so, when it comes to our faith, I call it faith, family, finances, fitness, and freedom, right?
5 F's.
The 5 F's. And to me, freedom is what we're after. We can't be free. Money's a part of it.
Yep.
Our health is a part of it, because make no mistake about it, you can be the most financially successful person, but if your health is toast, do you really feel free? Right? If your relationships with your spouse and your kids and your friends and family, if those relationships are garbage, do you feel free? Do you feel connected? No. If you're not connected with God, whatever you believe, believe what I believe, we're really aligned on that. If your faith isn't right, do you feel free? No. And not only that, is with your faith, your pastor and they're not going to read the Bible and do your praying for you. Got to that's a relationship. You got to put the time in for that. Your role as a husband and a father, you can't outsource that success. Your role with your fitness, your health. I just needed an F, fitness. You got to eat healthy. and I know you did the 75 hard and all that stuff. You're into it, right? You can't outsource that success. Nobody's going to do your push-ups and workouts and eat healthy for you. But somehow with finances, we've been convinced that we should just give over control of the success in our life. And Dave Ramsey would tell you, you're too stupid to understand it, so just do what I tell you to do. I'm going to tell you, and the reason I love whole life insurance is because it's an asset that's going to force you to be more intentional of thinking about what is your human life value, what is your role on this earth, and who do you need to become to live the life that you want to live. That's what this is all about. And if we want to change this world, it starts with every single person taking responsibility and accountability for that.
Yeah, it's huge. So awesome, man. What's the best book you've read this year? I know you're a big reader.
I read, it was a reread, and it's one that I go back to all the time. And it's a simple one. It's The Ant and the Elephant.
Oh, that's right. You told me about that.
I love it. And
Denver,
so I was just talking to somebody about it last week, and I went through and I reread it this weekend. So like it's just, you know, top of mind, I guess. But it's the idea. Ant and the Elephant. Vincent Pacenti is the author. Go get it on Amazon if you're watching this. Like just pause the video, go watch it. Right, go get the book now. It's amazing. Super short book, like 85, 90 pages, and it's a fable between an ant and an elephant. And the idea is it talking about the power of the subconscious mind. And the fact that, and I love this for money because like we all are programmed, make no mistake about it. We've been programmed since the time you were 4 years old and could start to like decipher and hear things about money and about habits and, you know, being marketed to and become a consumer mindset and all this different stuff, right? Yeah. So the power of the subconscious mind, when you make a conscious decision and like think about it, like when we do 75 hard, you know, the reason he does 75 hard and not 10 hard because anybody can grit through, you know, white knuckle 10 days, right? Like for you did it. 10 days wasn't easy, but it wasn't like
wasn't bad,
life altering, right? But 75, you became somebody different in that process.
Yes.
Fair enough?
Yes, definitely. 100%.
Right? Because when you do something
Shout out
that
Danny
long,
Porcelli, by the way.
right?
Yeah.
When you do something that hard, that consistently, and you have to do that intentionally, you get to a place where it becomes past white knuckling it and being conscious about the decisions that I make, and it becomes subconscious in the way that you just are living your life. You became somebody different. You got reprogrammed at a different level. Yeah. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And that's, you know, to me, that's a big thing. You know, like you can't. But and in the book, what it talks about is like subconsciously when we make a subconscious reaction, our brains are firing off literally, and they've done scans on this. 4 billion neurons a second. When we make a conscious decision, it's only 4 million neurons a second. So the reason that the thinking that we're going to just be able to make conscious decisions and white knuckle and not like reprogram our why and all these things to actually impact change in our own life is the equivalent of an ant sitting on the head of an elephant thinking it has the ability to steer the elephant. So that's the idea, and it's this cool fable. So it's an amazingly impactful book, first of all. Yeah. But I just love that because it all goes back to starting with why, the Simon Sinek Golden Circle thing, and it just goes back to really understanding like when you connect with why you're doing anything, that's going to hit you at a subconscious level. That's what connects and gets you to understand subconsciously and start to reprogram yourself to actually be able to make real change.
Man, that's incredible. I'm super passionate about that subject. In fact, I speak a lot. And when I'm not talking about retirement, that's the other number one topic. I spend time hanging out with people talking about that. That's so powerful. What a great recommendation. Thanks for sharing that.
Totally, man.
I have like a million more questions to ask you. We could spend all day. We're doing another video. But let me ask you this question. When it's all said and done, okay, what is your legacy? My legacy, you know, I think that's changed. It's interesting. I try not to think, honestly, I try not to think about it. And the reason is because I just believe I want to set my goals so big that when I accomplish them, I can't take credit for them. You know, that was kind of something is like, I believe that God wants more for me and that I was put on this world to do something so significant that I can't even comprehend what that looks like. And for me to come up with what that looks like, you know, I feel like I'd be selling myself short in a way. I just want to execute day in, day out. I want to be the best husband and best father and best example that I could possibly be. That's awesome.
You know, and honestly, like outside of that, I'm imperfect in it all, always, you know, like, but I try my hardest to, you know, show up and be there for my family, be there for my kids, be there for my wife, and be there for the community that I'm building. And I guess, you know, legacy to me, what I'm doing in the life insurance business, as important as it is, like it takes a backseat to my family and, you know, and to everything we're doing there. You know, what I impact my kids with and the ripple effect from that is obviously extremely important to me. But, you know, I hope that, you know, if we want to make it about the industry real quick, I hope it's not a legacy, that I don't get to see, you know, like I hope that, what I'm after every single day professionally is to make a change in the industry and make an impact on people. That way, when these big changes that I know are inevitable to happen in the IUL space and in the permanent cash value life insurance space as a whole, because I think there's going to be a ripple effect, that people look to the content that I created and look to the community that I built and, you know, played a big role in building and said, wow, that guy like led from the front, had integrity, never compromised, never took a shortcut, and just led by example and helped save a lot of people from a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
You know,
that's awesome, man. Well, I think when it comes to one of the finest human beings I know.
Oh, come on.
Absolutely incredible, man. You've done so much for me, and I'm extremely grateful to you and everything
Thanks,
you're
brother.
doing. You
I
have
appreciate
tremendous
you.
integrity, very genuine, and I love
Thanks,
what you're doing, man. Thanks for letting
Thanks,
me do
man.
this. This was fun.
No, awesome, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.